Hey guys, my name is Nick. I'm here with GosuGamers.net, and we are here with Dtwo. Straight off his win, first round of the opening weekend. Dude, that was a close set. You got two great games off with the Hunter. First question, what was your thought process behind banning Warlock, and is that going to be something you do for the rest of the tournament, or what?
Basically, you kind of have to set up your decks in a certain way, whether it's, and the two, like, elephants in the room basically are Hunter and Warlock. So it's like, you basically need to set up your decks to ban Hunter or ban Warlock, pretty much, because you can't really have a set of decks that deal with both, or deal with both effectively, especially with the ban, because maybe they ban your counter, or they ban one of your counters and you're left with one deck, and if that loses, you lose 3-0. So basically, the way I set my decks up was to ban Warlock, and you're basically banning two decks in one, or two archetypes in one. So that's why I went with that. And also, like, those two archetypes obviously are extremely powerful too. And then handlock causes almost as many, if not more, problems than Hunter, because you just have to have a specific way to kill it, and then something it could still win anyway. Like, it can still beat Hunter. So that's what I was thinking going into that. Was there like a second part of the question?
No. I mean, honestly, you answered it great. Your opponent had a similar strategy. You know, he wanted to ban Warlock, and kind of what you said happened. He lost the first match versus Hunter, and he didn't have a deck that could deal with that. After you won the first real close game versus his warrior, were you kind of like got it like in the bag, or were you still, you know, a little nervous about it?
Well, actually, both warrior and priest are pretty good against Hunter. So, like, if you tech your priest correctly and know how to play it, like in the beginning, control priest kind of struggled against Hunter, but once people start figuring out the matchup and figuring out which cards to play, like, one of the big things is sometimes you don't know when to play Northshire Cleric, and and now everyone knows, like, just throw it out turn one. It just causes so many problems, and so that was a bit of an issue. I had to deal with the priest as well, so I wasn't out of the woods yet, and I had to basically play that matchup, you know, basically as smart as I could in order to, like, because I didn't know, like, what their answers were. Fortunately for me, he didn't have the greatest of answers, and he had to kind of use his best answers early. Like, Holy Fire is a really good tool later, because you get to take out a big guy and heal yourself back up, and he had to use it pretty early, so that was fortunate for me. Yeah, once I beat the priest, I was like, I'm pretty sure I got this. Unfortunately, my Hunter lost to a Shaman, even though I feel like the Hunter I run is slightly favored against Shaman.
Is that any particular cards that you use that maybe aren't standard in Hunter?
Not really. I think, well, even having, like, the one Unleashed, like, people sometimes run two Unleashed, like, you could really have it be good against Shaman. Like, you basically, like, the decks that, the Hunter decks that are good against aggro are also good against Shaman, because you basically have stuff that counters the fact that they flood the board a lot with totems. But mine wasn't particularly, like, geared to go against Shaman, but having played that matchup a lot, and having played from the Shaman side a lot, like, I kind of know how to take advantage of, like, what the Shaman can do. And also because, as you can see, he was playing Lava Burst. I didn't know he was playing that yet, but I figured he might be playing, like, the double Lava Burst, double Doomhammer deck, which is a little bit weak, because, I mean, you can burst someone down, but you're kind of stuck looking for answers in the beginning, because you have all these, like, kind of superfluous cards.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That actually is kind of what took place. Quick question: the acidic swamp ooze in your priest deck, is that standard, or is that just something that you kind of like a metagame call?
It's definitely a metagame call. I mean, people playing a lot of weapons. I'm not banning Hunter at the moment. I mean, I might ban Hunter later. You never know. But so I mean, there's a lot of warriors, a lot of Hunter, obviously, and potentially Rogue as well. Although I'm not really going to be relying on my priest to beat that. But essentially, what it was is that I needed some early game in order to beat to solidify the matchup against Hunter. And one of the options there was Smite, but I felt like sometimes it can be just way too weak in control matchups, and even in aggro matchups, sometimes things are just really resilient, and it doesn't really do much unless you have a Pyromancer. So I felt like if I just go with replacing Smite with Ooze was the way to go, and especially because there's so many powerful options in priest decks as far as, like, 5-6 drops, or sorry, not 5 drops and 6 drops, to just clarify. So that, like, you know, you have Sludge Belcher, you have Loatheb, you have, you know, your Cabal Shadow Priest. So I felt like I didn't want to make that too heavy, and I didn't want to have to like choose between Harrison and some other things. So basically the ooze fit nicely into there, like kind of like the anti-aggro. Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, hey man, last question. I guess this is kind of a two-parter. Who do you think in this tournament, who are you least, like looking forward to playing, and what do you think for this particular, road to a BlizzCon like meta? What do you think is the most powerful deck?
As far as people I'm looking to avoid, I would say more the decks that happen to have countermining, because you kind of need to point your decks in a certain direction as far as what you're trying to accomplish. And then some people, they just luck of the draw, they countermining, and that also obviously means they don't counter other people's, but it just kind of happens that way. So I need to look more at the list and see which players basically like their decks, which decks countermining, and those essentially are the players I'm looking to avoid. As far as as just skill is concerned, obviously Kalento's really good. Obviously Strifeco's very good, and there's a lot of good players as well, like in this tournament. And basically, I mean, this is a kind of boring answer, but there's so many good players in this tournament. People I think overlook the Chinese players, but I think there's there's different reasons for that, and I think they're stronger than people think, especially the audience that are watching them. So definitely people like Running Gun is really strong, and Titulus Celestial is really strong as well. So, and even the Koreans are pretty good too. And I mean, I beat the Taiwanese player, but I heard I mean, he had a pretty solid lineup, and Frozen Nicer is really good as well. So I can't really I mean, basically everyone's really strong. I mean, but you have the famous players that obviously are really good, and you have some Chinese players as well. But the second part, the strongest deck.
Let us hear it.
It's kind of tough, because the meta's in a really interesting place right now, because everything, it's like a circle basically. It's like there's no dominant deck at the moment really. Like Hunter's just really powerful, Handlock's really powerful, Zoo is really powerful, but they all can be countered in different ways. So it's like my default is go with those three, but then there's decks like Warrior that if you tech in a big game Hunter for instance, it can beat pretty much anything. Warrior is kind of like the new Druid because it's kind of evenly matched against most things, and it has favorable matchups and unfavorable matchups, but it's in the 45 to 55 range. So it's kind of like the new Druid in that way, and then Druid's kind of weak to some of the things like Handlock. So it's a bit Druid's kind of fallen off and Warrior's kind of taken his place. But you might see Druid again, but I don't know. It's hard to answer that question. I mean, even something like Rogue is really powerful too, except it just dies to Handlock, and then sometimes it can just die to Hunter. So
so it's really just a very counter-based meta.
Exactly.
All the decks are kind of viable. It's just the player's intuition of what to choose.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Well, hey, is there anything you want to say to your fans? You've been on quite the hot streak lately.
Yeah. Thanks for everyone cheering for me. I've gotten a few haters as well, so shout out to us, I guess. And go check out iHeartHew.com, my new team. And yeah. That's about it.
All right, great. You guys, that was us. GosuGamers.net. We'll be here covering the whole thing. This was D2. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you. Cool.